to another one of my live stream events. Today we are going to be reading Chapter 10 of Saving Destiny. I'm just going to wait another few minutes for people to start signing on before I start reading. My intravenous steroids finally got regulated to a point where I can stay awake all day without passing out. So I should be able to stay awake through this whole live stream and not fall asleep on you guys mid-sentence and then wake up and start reading again. I see people starting to sign on right now, so this is good. In the last chapter, Destiny arrived at the Jackson Center and met CMC, the house manager, and Destiny arrived at the Jackson Center and met all the staff and the other girls that will be living with her in Sharon House, the adolescent girls' house. She even got to experience her first house meeting and met CMC, the house manager, who's in charge of all the girls and staff at the house. Something about CMC rubbed her the wrong way. All of the characters at Sharon House are based off staff members at NCCF, a residential treatment program I was trapped at for a year and a half when I was Destiny's age. CMC is based on a real person as well, just made out to be even worse for dramatic purposes. I'm about to start reading, but I would just ask everyone that's watching if you could please share this live stream with as many of your friends as possible. It's really important to me to get my writing out into the world before my small fiber autonomic polyneuropathy, and especially my multiple system atrophy, takes me. Small fiber autonomic polyneuropathy in itself is not always terminal. The effects of it can be terminal. The multiple system atrophy is terminal. I've had it for 4 years. People can live with it for 2 to 10 years. But I've been seeing my health decline rapidly, which is really scaring me in the last year. Anyway, it's really important. I don't know if I have anywhere from weeks to 5 years left, but I wanted to have my writing to be my legacy and to be my way of leaving my mark on the world and leaving it a little bit better than the way I found it. Anyway, without further ado, I will begin reading here. We are reading Destiny's perspective. After the house meeting, the girls filtered into the kitchen for a snack. I followed silently behind them, desperate to get away from CMC. In the kitchen, girls grabbed snacks from the fridge and the cabinets and sat down at the table. I felt awkward that they were eating and I couldn't. I knew someone was about to offer me food, and I could feel my forehead begin to moisten in anticipation of this. I hated my gastroparesis. Not only did it cause constant nausea, pain, bloating, and frequent bowel obstructions, there was also the fact that it made me unable to eat anything or process any drinks by mouth. Plus, of course, it meant I had to wear the dumb backpack with the tube snaking out, coiled around a clip on my shirt that was called a tubie clip, and then led up under my shirt to where the J tube went in, right under my left breast, in the most inconvenient spot possible. I have my tube right here, and my bras always cut it off. It's so uncomfortable. Sure enough, Kayla asked the question, "Why don't you want a snack? They have some really good ones. You can look through all of those cabinets, or in the fridge." I debated in my head how to respond to this. I could just tell her that I wasn't hungry. Then the whole situation would be over, and no one would think twice. But I was going to be living with Kayla. In the very near future, all of the other girls were going to wonder as well why they never saw me eat. After a lot of internal debate and agonizing, I decided to go with the truth. I actually can't eat, I told her. What do you mean you can't eat? She had been peeling an orange and had some graham crackers and peanut butter set up on a napkin in front of her. But when I said that, she put down the orange and looked at me like a unicorn horn had just sprouted out of my forehead. This wasn't going so well. My heart felt like it was running around a racetrack at top speed. Did she think I was making this up? I have a disease called gastroparesis, I began to explain, as Kara picked the orange back up to finish peeling it. It basically means that my stomach is paralyzed. If I eat, I either throw up right away or the food just sits in my stomach for days to weeks and forms a big hard ball in my stomach that can cause something called a bowel obstruction, which can literally cause a part of my intestine to explode. And then I would need emergency surgery or it would kill me. So how are you still alive if you can't eat? Asked Kara, sounding suspicious of the whole thing. She had finally finished peeling the orange and was breaking it up into edible sections. I have a special tube in me. It's called a GJ tube. I pointed to the coiled up tubing clipped to my shirt. I don't feed through my J tube anymore because I can't tolerate it anymore, but I do have a tubey clip like Destiny had. This is a tubey clip, and I have my TPN, which is my IV nutrition, coiled in my tubey clip, just like Destiny had her tube feed coiled in her tubey clip. This tubing comes from my tube feeding bag, which is pumping tube feeding formula into me constantly at a very slow rate. I took my pink backpack off my back and unzipped it to show her the bag of tube feeding clipped to the top of the bag in there, and the bag of water clipped to the top of the bag next to it, with the tube feeding pump in its special pouch at the bottom of the bag, and the tubing going through the hole in the bottom of the bag, and all coiled up and hooked into me. Every hour, the pump gives me 30 milliliters of water, and then it goes back to giving me the tube feed formula, which is my food, I finished explaining. Kayla looked dumbfounded as I zipped the bag back up and put it back on my back. When I looked up, I noticed that the other girls had been watching and listening to me show Kayla as well. So that other bag is just your purse then? Kat asked, pointing to my G-tube drainage bag that was in the unicorn sloth print cover bag that my mom had picked out for me on Etsy and I'd fallen in love with, as the sloth is the spirit animal for gastroparesis. Slow gut, slow sloth. Again, I figured that they would find out eventually. And besides, honesty is the best policy. No, that's actually my G-tube drainage bag, I explained. Your what? Lydia asked, wiping cream cheese from her saltine crackers off her face. With the special tube that I have, the GJ tube, part of the tube goes into my small intestine. That's the part where the tube feeding goes in, but the other part goes into my stomach. But I thought your stomach's broken, Kayla interrupted, sounding suspicious again. It is, I told her. I have the G-tube because my stomach is broken. I don't get it, said Kat. The G-tube takes anything that's in my stomach and drains it out into this G-tube drainage bag. And I'll show you guys my G-tube drainage bag. Hang on a second. This is my G-tube drainage bag. And whatever I drink goes into this drainage bag. So, during my lives, you might see me sipping on something, like this drink. But when I drink it, it doesn't go into my stomach and then get digested. It goes into my esophagus, into my stomach, and then immediately into that bag I just showed you. The G-tube, it prevents my broken stomach from having anything in it that would cause problems, make me really sick, or even possibly kill me. It also allows me to drink clear liquids, because as soon as I drink something, the G tube drains it out into the drainage bag, so that the clear liquids don't just sit in my stomach for days and cause me to vomit or have life-threatening issues. It's actually pretty cool. Can I see it? Asked Tanya, who had been quiet up until then. Sure, I told her, and opened up the bag cover, revealing the murky fluid and air-filled bag of drinks, bile, and air that had been drained out of my stomach since the last time I'd emptied it into the toilet about 3 hours ago. They weren't reacting scared or repulsed or anything like that. I was pleasantly surprised. They were just interested in learning about something new and accepting me for who I was. This was a first for me. Maybe the Jackson Center really wouldn't be that bad. Can I see what the tube looks like where it goes into you? Asked Lydia. Sure, I told her, this time confident in myself. I picked up my shirt to just below my bra line so that my tube would be visible. Just then, coming out of the blue, I heard a deep, booming voice. Hey, not okay. Put your shirt down, Destiny. I looked around, and CMC had appeared out of nowhere. That was something that I would learn he tended to do. Immediately, I dropped my shirt down and felt my heart drop into my feet as well. You can't be revealing yourself in public like that. It's inappropriate, he told me. I wasn't trying to reveal myself, I began to explain. I was just showing them my GJ tube because they were curious. I don't care what reason you had. You can't be picking your shirt up that high in front of anyone. And anyway, your GJ tube is your GJ tube. It's no one else's business. There's no need to show it to anyone. If you feel like you need a little extra attention, just come and talk to a staff and tell them I need a check-in. Don't just start showing off personal medical equipment for sympathy points. My face got hotter and hotter the more he spoke. He obviously had just walked in at the end of the conversation and completely misjudged it. But that wasn't the point. The point was that now his version of the truth was going to be entered into my chart at the Jackson Center. And I knew it was going to affect the way I was going to be treated from this point forward. Plus, I had just been humiliated in front of the 4 other girls. So this was why I had such a bad feeling about CMC. CMC stuck around us girls a few minutes longer, joining in on a conversation with Tanya, who he was teaching how to play guitar along with Kat. All right, girls, snack time is over. Please make sure to clean up after yourselves. Girls who don't clean up after themselves will be deducted points and possibly given timeouts. Otherwise, you girls are free time until dinner. The other girls cleaned up after themselves, and then I followed Kayla and Kat into the living room. Tanya and Lydia went up to their rooms. I noticed they remembered to say, going up, before they went up the stairs, and then waited for Eden, Kara, CMG, or CMC to say, okay, before going up the stairs to their rooms. Is this your first time being in a program? Asked Kayla, who was 17, when she settled herself on a couch with her music headphones and her journal in hand. Yeah, but I was in the hospital for a long time before this. I explained. How long have you been here? About 8 months, she told me. I felt a little sick inside. 8 months was a super long time. I knew the average length of stay here was 12 to 18 months, but in my head, I still latched on to the idea that I would do so well that they would let me out after just a few months. Do you like it here? I asked her. Most of the time, she told me, but there are a lot of rules. Yeah, I can see that, I agreed. I grabbed my sketchbook and began drawing another picture of Blinky. That's really good, Kat told me, looking over my shoulder. Thanks, I smiled at her. I love to draw. I wish I could draw like that, Kat told me. I just do it a lot, I explained. I felt a lot better after CMC went home for the day. Then it was just the girls, me, CMG, Eden, and Kara. The whole vibe of the house felt a lot more relaxed. Dinner time made me so nervous. I was shaking and tremoring. It was Lydia's turn to set the table, and then we all sat down. Kara explained to me that before we started dinner, we had a moment of silence. "All right, guys, let's have a moment," she announced. The whole room fell silent, and then Kara broke it. "Okay, let's eat." I just sat there. They had set me a plate and silverware, even though I couldn't eat. But then I noticed they had filled me up a cup with some sort of light blue liquid. "What drink is this?" I asked. "That's one of the drinks that your mom said you can have. It's a Gatorade Frost with 0 sugar," Eden told me. I smiled. That was one of my favorite flavors of Gatorade. I wasn't allowed to drink anything with sugar in it, because even though all of my drinks drained out of me, if I drank, say, regular Gatorade, some of the sugar would still absorb in my mouth when it hit my saliva, and that would cause something called dumping syndrome. When I had dumping syndrome, I would have severe diarrhea for hours to days. I would have hot flashes alternating with cold sweats. My stomach would feel like it was burning a hole through me. I would develop hiccups that would refuse to go away, and I would end up feeling so drained and exhausted at the end of it that I would just crash and want to sleep for days. My mom did tell me that she was going to bring in a whole bunch of drinks that I could drink so that I could participate in meal times by drinking my drinks then. We usually don't allow kids to bring in foods from home for meals, but Destiny is obviously a special circumstance. You can bring in a week's worth of drinks at a time so that she will always have a way of participating in the social aspect of meal times, Eliza said to us at the intake. And as inconspicuously as possible, I dropped my G-tube drainage bag to the ground, where it would drain better, and made sure that there were no kinks in the tubing. Then I took a couple sips out of the big tumbler-sized cup of sugar-free Gatorade. Then I watched blue drain down the tubing into the drainage bag. Once I was satisfied, I began sipping freely at the Gatorade and trying to follow the animated conversations that the girls, Eden, Kara, and CMG, were having. At the end of dinner, all of the other girls had finished everything, but I still had a lot of Gatorade left. Eden pulled me aside to talk to me. "Normally, girls lose points for not finishing their meals," she explained. "I know you don't eat, and that you get tube feeding, and that's why we just give you clear liquids at dinner for pleasure, because you get all of your nutrition and hydration through your J-tube. Your protocol will be a little different, and you won't lose points. That may change in the future, but that's the way the plan is now." I sighed with relief. "You seem sort of stressed," Eden commented. I nodded. "I am." "Do you want to go for a quick walk with me?" she asked. "Yes, please," I told her. "Can I just empty this G-tube drainage bag because it's full of bile, air, and blue Gatorade?" "Of course," Eden told me. "Do you need any help?" "No, Christy and Vicky, my 2 favorite nurses at Haverford Hospital, taught me how. It's really easy," I said. Kat was in the downstairs bathroom, screaming about how constipated she was, so I was going to have to use the upstairs bathroom. "Going up," I called out at the base of the stairs, even though Eden was standing right there with me and obviously knew what I was doing. "Okay," Eden told me, following me up the stairs. What a dumb role. I emptied my G-tube bag, with Eden watching from the doorway, because I was on phase 1 and had to be in staff sight at all times. Then I called out, "Going down." Eden, who was right next to me, responded, "Okay," and I headed down the stairs. Yes, another stupid rule. Sorry, I read that too quick. When we got to the doorway, Eden explained to me that any time I was going to leave the house, I had to say, stepping out, and wait for staff to say, okay, yet another stupid rule. We walked around the Jackson Center grounds for a while. Guys, if you're listening to this, please share with as many people as possible, please. If you can just share this. We walked around the Jackson Center grounds for a while, and I told Eden a little bit about everything. How I had started hearing and seeing things that no one else could hear or see when I was 5, and got really confused sometimes about what was real and what wasn't. I explained how I would feel so sad and depressed sometimes and not even know why. I got sick at first when I was 8, and the gastroparesis started. Then I got older. The gastroparesis just got worse and worse. I almost died from it. Then my mental illness symptoms started to get really bad too. And they put me on a medicine that you're not supposed to use on kids. And it made me go crazy. My parents took me back to a different psych hospital and then a partial hospital program. And then I was just in and out of psych hospitals, medical hospitals, and partial hospitals from then on. For years, no one could figure out what was wrong with me. And then finally, they found a name for what it was and called it childhood-onset schizoaffective disorder, I explained to her. Once we had a name for it, I still was having so many problems, I added. As we continued to walk around the grounds, my story continued to pour out about everything that had gone on at the last hospital, with me struggling so bad and all the restraints. By the time we circled back to Sharon House, I felt a lot calmer and lighter. Oh, thanks, Vivian, for sharing. Carol, if you wouldn't mind sharing too, that'd be awesome. Eden had seemed to listen intently and sympathize in all the right places. I had no idea about anything Eliza had told them prior to my admission. Back inside the house, I found out that it was chore time. My chore was to clean the living room. I had to dust all the tables and shelves. I had to vacuum the carpet, fix the pillows, and then I had to clean off the TV and video game systems. After we finished our chores, we had a quick break for free time, and then it was time for our nightly activity. That night, the on-grounds activity was softball. Just the movement of my muscles and the feeling of the softball landing with a satisfying thwack in my glove felt so satisfying. The best part was when I scored a home run off Sam G, and I heard the loud crack of the bat as it connected with the ball and sent it sailing. Everyone was quite impressed that I had the capability of hitting a ball so hard. Anne, one of the nurses, came over to us at Sharon House around 8 p.m., and staff had us all line up at the door to the office that was in the kitchen. She gave us each our nighttime medications, having the rest of us stand back, as she called us forward one at a time. When it got to be my turn, she showed me how she had all of my pills already crushed up, and then she showed me the packages they had come in. I'm going to save you for last, so if you don't mind, let's let Kat go before you, since she just has to quickly swallow hers. Then I can give you the full attention that you deserve and is necessary for something as complicated as J-tube meds. Kat did not just quickly swallow her meds. She made a big production out of it. Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for sharing. I need something for constipation, she told Anne the nurse, and to help my farting problems. I giggled and looked at Blinky. I made Blinky nod her head. We both agreed. Kat definitely did have a farting problem. You have Miralax with your meds. What do you want to mix it with? Orange juice, Kat said. Well, grab some orange juice, encouraged Anne. Cat left the office doorway, grabbed a cup of orange juice, and went back. Do you have anything stronger than the Miralax? Asked Cat. We'll have to make you an appointment with your doctor to talk about that if you really feel like you need something stronger, Anne told her. If you want to solve the farting problem, the tummy upset, and possibly constipation, stop eating all that ice cream and dairy products. You are lactose intolerant. Your body cannot process dairy. Maybe we can get an order for you to have pills to take before you have dairy, but those only work to a certain extent. I need you to lay off the dairy, and I really need you to take those meds now. What's this purple one? Asked Cat. That's your Nexium. It's the same one you've been getting since you came here. It's for your acid reflux. Oh, okay, Cat said. She picked it up and swallowed it with the orange juice mixed with Miralax. This Miralax is so nasty, Cat made a face as she swallowed the pill down. I really need you to take the rest of these meds. I still have to do Destiny's meds too, and those will take me a little bit longer. Why? Asked Cat. That is up to Destiny to tell you, the nurse said. I suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. If I told her that I take my meds through my J-tube, then that would add on to CMC's idea that I was just using my medical condition to get attention. Or would it just be being a friend and explaining to her how I do parts of my life so that she doesn't feel confused and out of the loop? Why do your meds take longer, Destiny? Cat asked me point blank. I was a deer in headlights. I started to say something, stopped, started to say something else, froze again, and finally just figured that CMC wasn't there, so I could just tell her. I take all my medications through my J-tube. I explained to her how my meds got crushed and mixed and pushed into my J-tube with a syringe, because if I swallowed them, they would just drain out the G-tube or sit in my stomach for days, not doing anything. I wish I could have a J-tube to put my Miralax through, so I didn't have to taste it, Cat told me. I laughed. Once Cat finally finished taking all her meds, she stopped and asked about her Depakote and her Seroquel as well, and Anne told her what they were, and again, that she'd been taking them the whole time she'd been at Sharon House. The nurse gave me mine through my tube. I could tell she hadn't done it in years because her hands were shaking and her brow furrowed deep. After all 5 of us had gotten our meds, they let us turn the TV on and take video games out, as well as anything else we might have wanted, and everyone was kind of just hanging out. I felt exhausted, but they told me it was too early to go to bed. I ended up sitting on the couch with my sketch pad, struggling to keep my eyes open. I kept dozing off, and they kept waking me up, telling me that I couldn't sleep in the living room or I'd be collecting. I didn't know what collecting was, but I tried explaining it was the nighttime meds knocking me out because I had a sleeping med called trazodone in there. You have to stay awake until bedtime. It's the rules, Sam G kept insisting. This was near impossible. What they didn't understand was that my meds went straight into circulation once they were administered, because they went into my small intestine and were immediately picked up into my bloodstream within about 5 minutes. The other girls took their meds by mouth and had about 30 to 45 minutes before they went into circulation. The other girls were also a lot healthier than I was, as much as I hated to admit it. Finally, at 8:30 p.m., they told me I could head up to bed without being penalized. I went into my room and grabbed my pajamas and my toothbrush and stuff. Because you're on phase 1, you have to leave the door cracked open whenever you're in the bathroom, Eden explained to me as I headed in to brush my teeth. I just nodded. The rules were smothering me. Once I was in bed, curled around Blinky, I felt like the reality of everything was hitting me again. I was stuck in this program with a million rules for a lengthy amount of time. I should be home right now. I should be enjoying my summer, going back to dance camp, playing in my room at home with all my stuffed animals, going to the mall with my mom to look at clothes from Justice and the Children's Place, my two favorite stores. Instead, I was here. I tried to console myself by vowing that I would do so well that they would decide that I didn't need to be here. That they would send me home after a few weeks. I held on to that hope as I finally drifted off to sleep. And that is the end of Saving Destiny, Chapter 10. So just wondering if I can get some feedback, what you guys thought of this. Please give me your comments, feedback, anything you thought of this chapter, what you think of the Jackson Center, what you think of any of the staff. The Jackson Center is based off of NCCF, the program I was at when I was Destiny's age. And the characters are all based off of the other girls that were at the program and based off the other staff that was off the program. But it's dramatized, details are changed, it's fictionalized. It's not the same as what I was. It's completely fictionalized from that place, but it is based off that place. So just looking for some feedback. If you can give me any comments, any feedback to what you thought of this chapter, if there's anything you think I should change before I publish the book, anything like that. If not, if you guys can just subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you can go, I'm gonna write in the link. If you can go to my website, beccapava.org, and my blog. My blog has also been updated recently and reorganized. If you want to check it out, some of the posts have been changed slightly at the beginning. And I guess I'll end this video right now. Alright guys, thank you so much. Happy to have had you here. Love all you guys. Happy viewing, happy reading. Bye.